This is Professor Venkatachalapathi, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. In this manufacturing process course, I would like to discuss about steps involved in making a casting. In the previous video, I have explained about basic concept of casting and what are its applications and some of the important requirements of the casting I have discussed. In this video, I would like to give clear idea about the steps involved in making a casting. I hope there are many steps and things to consider when manufacturing products through the technique of casting and the casting process. Here, let us see, casting is a primary process. As you know that there are series of steps involved in the metal casting, and before going to do some complex shaped products like engine parts or crankshaft and some of the what you call in tractor engines which will be manufactured through this metal casting process. In this manufacturing process, what are the basic steps involved in manufacturing process and how the complete flow chart of this process and what are the related to benefits of its casting and why this is a popular method, traditional method, this casting process, and we'll discuss entire the steps involved in the metal casting process. Okay, as you know that in a casting, either it may be a sand casting or metal casting, and only thing is the molten metal can be prepared through some furnace, either it may be a blast furnace or cupola furnace or induction furnace, and one side they can prepare the pattern and mold making, and once the preparing of the mold making, okay, preparation of the mold, we should get the molten metal and you can fill it and giving a certain solidification time, and by giving a solidification time then extract by final component. That component will be tested with the inspection department, and finally finishing and painting it will go to the customer. Okay, and this is why how the manufacturing process, the traditional process is metal casting process. Okay, now look at, I hope this is a visualization of metal casting in a foundry industry. First of all, you should be able to know what is the basic difference between a foundry and casting. So, do you know that foundry means the place where you can perform all the activities? We can call it as a foundry. Just you can see that the preparation of the molten metal by using furnace. Okay, and after getting that molten metal, they can able to take in through the cranes and some of the ASRS, automated storage and transportation methods where you can bring the molten metal into the series of prepared the mold cavity equipments. Okay, and why I have shown this diagram, it is the molten metal, it is a red hotted state. The temperature is nearly more than 1400 degrees centigrade, which cannot be handled a human being. That is why there will be a ladle. Ladle should be kept, and you should experience it, a person should be handled, because it is a red hotted more than 1400 degrees centigrade. It may fell on some particles also, it will be some precautions for the human being. Okay, so whenever this molten metal preparation aside, and similarly preparation of the pattern and preparation of the sand mixing, and how you can prepare the mold with the help of the machine molding and hand molding process. Once you have to prepare the series of molds, and parallelly 2 hours before we started the molten metal, and you can, once the preparation of the mold cavities, you can bring the molten metal after getting ready, and you can pour. While pouring the molten metal in a some specified designing of gating system, that is sprue runner in gate. So that is the very important, you will study in depth in the coming classes and all. But wherever this molten metal, if you wanted to see also, it is a human being difficult to handle that molten metal. That is why automated devices can be used for transforming the molten metal into the desired mold making sections. Okay, now let us see how this process complete steps involved in this casting process, metal casting, or another thing is called sand casting process. For in any mechanical engineering student, first of all, he or she should able to understand these are the some of the components. There are, you can see first the step is pattern making, core making, gating system. So first of all, a student should able to understand what is pattern, what are the types of pattern, what are the pattern materials, and what are the properties of that patterns. Everything should able to understand. Then only they can able to identify based on your component, that is final application, which type of pattern can be should prefer. So this thing, that is why the first and foremost important thing is patterns. As you know that the term pattern can be defined as it is the replica of the original casting. Pattern can be defined as it is the replica of the original casting, where you have to use the application and what type of pattern to be used. Either it may be a single piece pattern, or two piece pattern, or split pattern, or gated pattern, or sweep pattern. So based on application, you should able to identify the type of pattern to be used. That is why in the complete manufacturing process, the first unit is metal casting process. When you wanted to understand clearly this casting process, it is a traditional process. You need to understand the step-by-step procedure of how we can prepare the metal casting. So this is what first in this flow chart clearly explain about the patterns. So what is pattern? What are the types of pattern? What are the advantages and limitations of the pattern? And how you will prepare the pattern making? Okay, what type of allowances to be provided? So these are the things to be considered for preparation of the pattern. One side they can prepare the pattern, and the other side the mold cavity. So the mold cavity, you can see there is a sand, and how with the help of the sand they will prepare the mold cavity. So this is the another important. Mold cavity is the what are the pattern shape. As we discussed here, the term pattern can be defined as the replica of the original casting, and that pattern can be used in the mold cavities. Especially you can see the some idols, especially your Hindu festivals, Ganesh Chaturthi, Vinayaka Chaturthi, they can make that Ganesh idols. That is the best example for this casting process. So they can have some mold, and in that Ganesh idol form is there. They can pour the either wax or whatever the material, and what are the shape of the in that mold, the same Ganesh idol can be prepared. That's why it is a traditional process. But in depth, any complicated shapes or any complex shapes with the variety of products and mass production, this is the one of the most preferred process. Okay, and that is why in this flow chart, majorly the pattern and pattern design and mold cavity, what type of mold cavity preparation by using hand or by using machine, and that should be considered. And some other important thing, before going to pour the molten metal into the mold, we should prepare the melting of the metal. That is what I have given. This is what, this is separate section how you can preparation of the molten metal. Again, there is a set of inputs and some of the components where you can use it, the perfect uses of the molten metal. Okay, so this is a separate section. When you wanted to pour the molten metal, you should prepare the mold cavities 2 hours before, and then once mold cavities are completed, then you should get the molten metal and you can pour into the series of the mold cavities. Okay, so that is why, let us see, in any manufacturing process in this metal casting, first the pattern is the one prime important parameter, then mold cavity, then how we can pouring into the mold. So that is preparation of the melting of metal. It is a separate section, and these three. So first pattern you should study, and mold cavity, how you can prepare the mold cavity, either hand molding or machine molding. Then this melting of the metal can be prepared with the some of the furnaces like muffle furnace, induction furnace, cupola furnace, based on the specification requirement of the molten metal. When you wanted to produce a 1,000 number of components, how much amount of the molten metal has to be prepared? So that is another important thing should be considered. So these are the preliminary requirement: pattern, mold cavity, and molten metal. So once these three requirements is over, then real casting can be done. Real casting. Once you have to pour the molten metal into the mold, you should give some solidification time. Solidification time is the one of the most important parameter. So if you are not provide the solidification time, that the final sound casting cannot be produced. Some defects may be occur. Some problems may occur. So that is why solidification time, whenever you can pour the heated molten metal into the mold, we should give a certain period of time to that molten metal will shrink and extract, and it will molecules will operate it in a period of time. And once you should give proper solidification time, then shake out or remove of some excess parts like risers, runners, and end gates, etc. in that mold. So that is what we can use the shake out. That short blasting operations can be used for removal of all risers and gates, etc. Once it can be removed, final casting can be obtained. Further, you can do some heat treatment process. This heat treatment process, again, you need to understand in metallurgy and material science subject what is meant by heat treatment, what are the purpose of heat treatment, and what are the heat treatment processes where you can use this type of casting process. Once you understand the heat treatment, then you can enter into the cleaning and finishing. And once the cleaning and finishing of excess parts like riser, runner, end gates and all, after that we should give some inspection. So inspection, once the inspection is over, defected parts can be eliminated. The sound and defective products may be dispatched to the painting section or final customer. Okay, so this is what the flow chart of preparation of the metal casting. Okay, and now let us see one by one. Just we should have to discuss about what is pattern and how we can prepare the mold cavity, how we can prepare the molten metal, how we can pour the molten metal into the mold, and with this how we can use the process of casting. And once the solidification time is over, how we can able to do the heat treatment, and how we can provide the next step of cleaning and finishing and inspection. Okay, let us see now this all this completion of the metal casting process. A series of steps will be available. That is our first pattern and mold cavity preparation and pouring into mold. And second case is how you can get the final casting by giving a solidification time, further finishing heat treatment, and cleaning and finishing with the painting section, and final inspection by removing all defected products. This is a sequence or steps involved in a metal casting process. Now let us see one by one. We will discuss in detail about pattern. What is pattern? What are the important steps to be taken? Selection of the pattern. What type of material to be used for pattern? What different type of patterns can be used? This and all we will discuss in detail in the next slide. Okay, look at pattern and its types. So this is what, as we have discussed about the flowchart of the metal casting or sand casting, in the first and foremost important thing is pattern. So I hope everybody you know that to pattern in the sense in the Ganesh Chaturthi or Vinayaka Chaturthi, the people are gaming with that Ganesh idol with the preparation of the casting process only. So that will be taken input from the historical days onwards. They can take into the consideration preparation of the mold and that similar about the pattern and all. So that is why now let us see how the pattern can be used in the casting. So in general, the pattern can be defined as it is the replica of the original casting. It is the replica of the original casting. For example, if you wanted to prepare one tractor engine, when you wanted to prepare one IC engine component, when you wanted to prepare one complex shape. So all these things, first of all, you need to prepare the pattern. So that pattern is either in a plastic, or either it is a wood, or either it is a ceramic, or either it is a metal. So this is also one most important thing that what you can see, the pattern used in casting. Pattern is replica or model of object. Suppose I wanted to manufacture this pen, isn't it? Either it is a plastic material, but this thing we can't use the casting process. What are the complex shapes? So complex shapes of the object or component, first you should prepare in a pattern form. That pattern may be either in a wood or metal or plastic or ceramic, etc. But any pattern is used to make the hollow cavity in a sand mold. Yes or no? In which the molten metal is poured into that mold cavity, and you should give some solidification time, then create a final object. This is a general important point about the casting. So why this pattern can be used for making a final component in a casting. So if you don't have pattern, where is the use question of making a component or product, etc. So that is why what type of component is required, the same type of component first you can prepare the pattern. So for example, either I wanted to make a tractor engine case, because it is a complicated shape. So there will be inner and so many holes are there, complex engine inlet wall and exhaust wall, so many walls should be kept. That design is not some complicated, but how many engines we are required, that is also very important. Okay, so per year how many number of tractors we are going to be manufactured. For that, how many type of designing of the components required. So for that, if it is a metal casting process, the pattern can be used in a wooden material. Only a limited number of component can be produced. For example, when you wanted to produce some limited 100 or 200, like you can use the wooden piece, because if you use the so many 100 or 1000 or 200, that wood pattern will be some extra parts and all will be removed, and some problem may occur. That final component also may be defective will get. Only a less number of products can be, when wanted to produce, you can use the wooden piece pattern. Yes or no? And similarly, if you wanted to use metal piece pattern, so for example, the pattern, the metal piece pattern, if you prepare the metal, it may use lakhs and lakhs of components, and the life of the components also will be more time. So that is why uh, the metal piece pattern, the quality also will be good, more number of components able to produce, and the component shapes also can be easily done. So that is why, and some components, all some plastic components of patterns also is available, ceramic type of patterns also available. And here, before going to select the pattern, first of all, what type of application you are choosing, how many number of components you are going to be produced. These things should be kept under consideration. Then only you are going to be select the pattern, and what type of material, and what is the advantages and the limitations of the particular pattern. Okay, so because as I discussed, the pattern, it is a replica of the original casting, yes or no. So whatever the final component, the same exact shape to be produced. So that should be very effective and qualitative, and it should be attractive by the customer. So for that reason only, you can able to select the pattern, material, and how many number of components should be produced. That's why this pattern selection is very important. And one more thing, you can see the size and shape of the cast object is highly depends upon the shape and size of pattern. So this is another important thing you should be able to understand. The size and shape. For example, tiny size. A pen is a small size. Suppose if you wanted to take a engine, and the size will be more, and that too a complex shape. Okay, if you use a simple means, again there is a skilled labor is required to prepare that type of pattern, either wood. So if you wanted to use metal means, some automated CNC machines also can be able to use. When you use CNC machine, the cost of the pattern will be more. When you wanted to cost of the pattern will be more, mass production to be produced, more number of components should be put, then only the final making the component can be reduced. All these things should be considered. So that is why size and shape of the casting majorly depends upon the shape and size of the pattern. This is also very important. Okay, so mostly the pattern are made by aluminium. That's what I told. Aluminium, wood, wax, and metal pattern used for mass production. That is what I have been explaining. When you wanted to produce mass production, so per shift, some 1,000 components or 2,000 components, like that, per day, 3 shift. In 3 shift, how many number of components you can able to use? Definitely you can. There is no way to use the plastic, wood, or aluminum. Only metal pattern only used for the long life and more number of components to be able to manufacture. Especially some cases, they can take in a for rent purpose also, because some quality patterns not available in some companies. Some export and import also can be done, where their making of the pattern should be very high qualitative. So they can give, you can able to produce 50,000 of components. So this is the price, like that. The metal piece pattern is there, it can be used in years and years also. Okay, so that is why metal pattern are used for mass production, but whereas wood and wax can be used a limited number of components. So that's what I told. Like Ganesh Chaturthi, every year only one day only Vinayak Chaturthi will come. So in that period only they can very less number of components can be put. That's why they can use some wax or some what you call some material. That type of can be used. Some plastics also can be used. But if that is a regular usage, everybody we need some 4-wheelers, 2-wheelers. There will be engine components are there, some complex shapes are there. Usage will be more automatically. We can produce the quality products. So automatically they can provide some effort to producing a more number of components. And the pattern making is most critical work. That's what skill is required for the pattern making. The pattern making is the most critical work in casting, because the object is highly dependent on it. Whatever the pattern, the same pattern can be produced by pouring the molten metal. Yes or no? So that is why whenever the pattern making is a good, automatically the final replica of that component, exact same type of component can be you are producing by pouring the molten metal. Obviously, a good or sound pattern should follow the requirements. Okay, so this is the major important information regarding the pattern and its type. Why? Because you can see whenever in the manufacturing process, it is a conversion of raw material into a finished product in a sequence of steps. Yes or no? So in that, from this flow chart, the first and foremost important thing is patterns. That is pattern making. So first, when you wanted to make a pattern, first you should be able to understand what is pattern, what are the types of pattern, what is the pattern material, and what are the advantages and limitations of the pattern. If you understand clearly, then only you can able to know the output, that is final application of that component can be easily made by through any type of pattern, either it may be metal piece pattern or wooden piece pattern or silica, what you call plastic or ceramic pattern, etc. So these all things should be considered for the based on the final application of the component. Yes or no? So next, let us see in this types of pattern. As I have discussed about the pattern can be defined as it is the replica of the original casting, and at the same time, what are the types of pattern and what are its advantages? One most important parameter. So now let us see single piece pattern. So for example, when you wanted to produce a one piece, single piece. So for example, I wanted to produce a component like this. This is a one piece. Okay. So this is a single piece. This is a pattern. The same shape of the pattern. This shape only can able to produce the final component. Okay, one component. It is a single piece pattern. So whenever you can able to identify the single piece pattern, we can able to make number of components should be produced. Based on that, you can able to select the pattern material. But as per the types of pattern is concerned, there are number of patterns are available, like single piece pattern and two piece pattern, gated pattern, multi piece pattern, match plate pattern, and the skeleton pattern, sweep pattern, loose piece pattern. So here each pattern is different from the other. Single piece pattern is only one piece. If it is a two piece pattern, means like you can see the like dumbbell shape. Okay, so this is one part. This is another part. Okay, this is a parting line. Okay, this is a one piece. This is a second piece. But this is the single piece pattern. Single piece pattern. This is a two piece pattern. Two piece, or this name also called the dumbbell shape. Dumbbell shape pattern. Yes or no? Okay, so like that, each pattern has a different role. Single piece pattern, two piece pattern, gated pattern, multi piece. Some three piece pattern also is available. If the three piece pattern can be used, there are three different type of boxes also can be used. So whenever it may be single piece pattern or two piece pattern, drop box and co box can be used. Whenever if you wanted to use three piece pattern, like or three boxes should be used for the making the mold cavity. That three piece in the sense drag bar, drop and co box and cheek box. The third important box can be used for cheek box. There is a three piece pattern. So for example, three piece in the sense For example, first one piece is there, and here it can be hold another piece. Now this is the, so this is the first piece, this is the second piece, this is the third piece. So that's why three-piece pattern. It is also called three-piece pattern or multi-piece pattern, where you can use the three different type of boxes. One is drag box, co box, and this is drag box. This is co box, and this one is cheek box. So if you wanted to use three-piece pattern, you can use the cheek box. So, and in general, you can important thing is generally the pattern. Why selection of the pattern based on the cost and the usage of that pattern, and you can easily repairable as per the metal piece is concerned, and it should be light in weight. If you use the wood material, it is a light in weight, easy to handle compared to metal piece pattern, and a pattern should withstand for ramming forces without deformation. Suppose if you are using the manual, certain amount of pressure should be applied. If you use the machine molding, exact amount of pressure should be fixed so that there is no deformation occurring to the sand, and also it should does not change its dimensions in the presence of moisture. The sand which contains some moisture components also will be there, and some also components, some bentonite mixture, silica, and some gray, some components should be added to get the good compressive strength of the sand. Okay, and it should be easily removable from the mold, and it should have a long life without changing its dimensions. This is what about the types of pattern, and what are the uses, and some of the limitations of the patterns also can be used. When you wanted to use the wood piece pattern, only less number of components only can be produced. When you wanted to use some mass production, there obviously the metal piece pattern only, there is no other chance. Only metal piece pattern can be selected, because mass production 1 lakh components, 2 lakh components, or more number of components should be produced is the metal piece pattern. And some moderate means you can use either plastic or ceramic type of material. So this is what about the pattern and the types of patterns, and what are the uses of the pattern based on its application. Okay, so this is what about the pattern and pattern types. Look at in this flow chart. Today I have completed about the pattern. So similarly, and how you can prepare the mold cavity, how you can prepare the mold cavity by using hand molding or machine molding, and how the preparation of the sand, and what are the sand properties also, one most criteria to understand clearly, that is permeability, green compressive strength, and some flowability, and these are the some properties also should understand for the preparation of the sand, so that you may get the sound mold cavity. So, and another things, other part, you can prepare the molten metal with the help of the how much quantity is required, the pouring the molten metal into the series of the molds. So these are the basic steps involved in the patterns and mold cavity preparation, and molten metal to pour into the series of the mold cavities. Okay, so this is about the general idea regarding the metal casting process. Once the pouring the molten metal is finished, we should give some solidification time to have the better sound casting process. So once the solidification time is over, they can shake out or short blasting process can be used, the removing the risers, ingates, and some runners also. So once it can be removed, you can use some heat treatment process. As you know that heat treatment, the term heat treatment can be defined as it is the process of heating, holding, and cooling. The term heat treatment can be defined as it is the process of heating the metals and holding and cooling. This is what heating and holding and cooling. This is a general definition of the heat treatment process. The main purpose of heat treatment is the removing of internal stresses, improving the mechanical, electrical, magnetic properties. The general heat treatment process are annealing process, normalizing process, and in the annealing also again full annealing and stress relief annealing. Okay, so types of annealing also will be there, and normalizing. Okay, these are the important heat treatment process to have good strength of the component. Once the heat treatment process is over, then it will enter into the cleaning and finishing section, and that it will goes to the inspection. In general, inspection can be done in a every morning. The morning in the when all the people come into the organization or the foundry industry, all the people in a topmost position like general manager and quality control manager and molten metal in charge and the preparation of the sand molding, that manager, and another expert in the heat treatment process people, all these people will every morning come to that foundry section, and whatever the preparation of the day before component they will be tested into the everyday morning. So there, by combination of the all the expert ideas, they can identify the casting defects. Sometimes a single person cannot identify the casting defect, that leads to a lot of difficulties in the final application of the component. That is why inspection also very important in a sand casting process. Once you have to complete every morning a half an hour to 1 hour with all the sectional top managers and including general managers also, to identify the casting defects like sand drop, shrinkage, and some blowholes and porosity, etc. These can be identified, and why it has been occurred based on the difficulties in the either difficulty in pattern or difficulty in problem in mold cavity or pouring the molten metal. Like that, they can easily identify based on the defects and based on the advantage and the limitations of the final component. So this is what about the general idea about the complete metal casting process using the series of steps of this flow chart. So okay, in the next class we'll discuss about the another topic such as pattern allowances. Yes or no? Okay, thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.